Hello, BNVU, and welcome in to That Guy's a Maniac, the podcast. The podcast that gives you the unenviable insight into the creators and masterminds behind the second greatest video games website ever, www.thatguys.co.uk. In this podcast series, we discuss the video games near and dear to us and give you, the listener, the rare privilege of hearing our poorly researched verbal dump. We are your hosts, Richie, myself, and also with me today, I have Farley, aka Kunzi11. Say hello, Farley.
Good morning, Vietnam.
And tell us, Farley, where else can we be found?
You can find us on all good social media apps and sites such as Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can find us at That Guy's a Maniac at all of those sites.
And do we have a sponsor for today's show?
We do. We could not bring to you this cornucopia of well-researched and intellectual video game content without generous support from a whole series of sponsors. And this week, Richie, we're sponsored by Baikal, a company which specializes in exoplanet extraction. That's Baikal for all your exoplanet extraction needs.
Brilliant, fantastic. That was fucking tight.
I know.
Apart from that time when, just at the very, very start where I said That Guys
I don't know
podcast.
if you saw on the levels, but I turned away to snigger, so you might have seen a quiet snigger there.
Well, there we go. Getting better, almost pro.
Yeah, that's probably the best one so far.
One of the best ones. But I appreciate you not bold-faced laughing all the way through my intro. That kind of helps and keeps me.
I just let you show yourself up this time.
Yeah. Just well, I mean, I'm always gonna, and trip over my own tongue. Right. So, what are we talking about today?
This week we're going back to a classic format called "What Are You Playing?", where we give a quick update on the games that we are currently playing, including perhaps revisiting some old classics and anything new we've been hands-on with.
Okay, cool. So what have... Oh, sorry. What are you playing, Farley?
Wow. You've been practicing. That was astonishing. This is the highest quality podcast we've got. I have been... That was appropriate, actually, to get a quick intro from the merchant. I have been playing Resident Evil Revelations 2 again on the Nintendo Switch. I've talked about this game a lot. I really like the Revelations. I don't know, they're not really spin-offs. They could just be mainline games. Anyway, I think the idea was that they were supposed to be episodic, so they will have this episodic structure.
Yeah, I remember when it came out, it had episode 1 was free, and then you have to buy the extra episodes for Revelations 2 or something like that. Yeah,
and then that's kind of one of those bits to it which is now lost in the midst of time because it's been ported to so many different places as just you just get the whole game and everything else. So actually we go back to the story mode. So that game, like the first Revelations game, has a raid mode which you could just sink hundreds of hours into. But I've been hoovering up some basically Chivo hunting. So they have records and rewards. Rather complicated system, and then there's actually quite a lot to it. And then each level has medals for you to get as well. And then there's a Chivo for getting all the medals, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so I've been hoovering up collectibles. Pretty much just sat there with my wife as navigator, hoovering up. There's invisible insects to find in the barrel. And
invisible insects.
Yeah.
Sounds like fun.
So, as you may be aware, although you've still not touched any of the Revelations, which is frustrating, just like the fact that you own them probably multiple times each. This Revelations 2 is oriented around asymmetrical co-op, I guess. So the story flips back and forwards in time. So one storyline is you are Claire and Moira, Barry's daughter, and then you then flip to Barry and a small girl called Natalia, who are kind of following in Claire and Moira's footsteps, but months afterwards. And so Barry and Claire are the typical gun-toting Resident Evil characters, and then Moira and Natalia have far less options for kind of taking down enemies, but they can find hidden items, open like QT specific doors, etc. And so one of the skills, I guess, that Natalia has, which gets explained through the story, is that she can kind of see through walls, and so
okay.
Well, you can kind of see shades of zombies and whatnot.
Does she see dead people?
No, she doesn't. No, it's just they have to be undead or whatever they are in this particular game. T-Phobos is in this game. So I've been playing it one player, but switching between the two characters. So in normal play, you have to be with Natalia and keeping your eyes peeled for these kind of very faint red shrouds that only she can see, which indicates that there are insects somewhere. So there's like 6 hidden insects per chapter. There's also the emblems, which have been a staple for quite a few games. And then in the Claire and Moira side of things, Moira can find like this hidden graffiti that she can only see with her torch, called Kafka things. So I've been doing that. And that's fun. And then trying to hoover up some of these extra chivos. But because we can't just talk positively about a game, I mentioned this before. I think I mentioned this before. Back in the day, if you kind of sped through a Resident Evil game without saving, that was the pinnacle of achievement. And you'd get rocket launchers and Gatling guns and all of that. And then I think from Resident Evil 6 onwards, I might be wrong on that, it became more just doing things super, super fast. It didn't really matter if you saved or not. And then Revelations 2 just gives you a whole raft of... So once you hit the credits, you unlock like a time mode. So you have to blast through the levels as quickly as possible with a running timer. And then also an invisible enemies mode. So,
fuck off.
Single enemies invisible, yeah. So I've been
attempting...
Yeah.
When you hit the credits, what percentage... completion of the game do you reckon you're at?
The way so ResidentEvil.net, a companion app that for some reason we keep plugging, even though I'm it presents you with your stats, and it does a really nasty thing. So it divides it up between story and raid mode. So raid mode, it's just how many of the I want to say 15, 16 characters have you got up to level 100, which will take you forever. And on the story side of things, you get like a fraction of completion, depending on whether you've completed the chapters on the 4 difficulty modes.
Okay.
So if you just blast through it all on normal, that will take you up to whatever 25%, I think it is.
25%. Okay.
Yeah, and then you do it all on easy, and then of course there's S ranks as well, and there's another Chivo for getting S ranks on every single level and every single difficulty. I think there's a harder difficulty which I haven't even unlocked yet. So in order to scoop up these items, I've been playing it on easy to kind of tick off that playing the game on easy series of Chivos, but it's impossible to do the speed run or the invisibility run for obvious reasons without just knowing the levels down pat, which I am not familiar enough with the game to know it.
Are you committed enough to get right into that and know the game inside out?
No, or I guess the way to play it would be, I'm sure you can look up videos of people doing all kinds of crazy speed invisible runs. Because the way to kind of do that would just to be right. I'm going to play the Claire and Moira part of Chapter 1 4 times back to back, right?
Yeah.
So I know everything, and to me that's just it's approaching the threshold of am I having fun or am I chasing these achievements? So yeah, those and there's I think there's like 15 of them because you get a Chivo for beating every chapter on this mode, that mode, that mode, that mode, and then you get another Chivo for doing all levels on that mode. So as long as I can sit with whatever it is, 147 out of 157 records, which I'll probably be quite happy to do. Then that's fine. But really enjoying it. Really like the setting of the second one.
Okay.
The idea behind the main virus, because each game has its own kind of virus, is that it's triggered by fear. So throughout the story, things get very scary, and if you get too scared, you then bubble up and turn into an eyeball arm mutant thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So there we go, just chipping away at that. What have you been playing?
Well, I haven't really got much under my belt because...
Interesting way of putting it.
Oh no, shut up, fuck off.
We're talking about video games.
Video games. Just video games, not my massive penis.
Okay. That's a different podcast.
Yeah. It's a video podcast. And yeah, if you subscribe to my Patreon and all of those cam girl jokes that we could make right now, I'm not gonna. I have been playing World of Warcraft Classic.
Oh, what a surprise.
But yeah, I think the last time we spoke, I was just basically, I was telling you about AQ or Encourage, which was the next raid that was coming up. And yeah, it has been open for 2 weeks now. So I have raided Encourage 20, or the runes of Encourage, and Encourage 40 twice. And thanks to the great guild that I'm in, we've actually 9 out of 9'd the bosses twice as well. So we've done pretty well, considering we're not a hardcore guild in any fashion. But we flashed right through the content, and we did AQ20 first, and it was really easy, and actually very, very, very quick. But AQ40 was definitely a little bit of a struggle, but I think it is actually, despite all of the hype around AQ being, oh my god, it's going to be so much harder, blah 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 blah, I actually think when Blackwing Lair came out, it was harder. This is not a hard raid, and I'm saying that purely because, well, we did trounce it twice, 9 out of 9, but also maybe because we are overgeared, or just because we've got great, leaders that have been able to sort of say, do this, do that, get this thing, and then boom, we're done. But it's kind of been a little bit of a disappointment in that, it wasn't harder than we expected. Do you know what I mean? We were kind of expecting a level of progression and all that sort of stuff.
Is that factoring in, because you said when you're kind of done and dusted with the last, whatever you want to call these things, expansions, basically that the whole guild turned into almost like a factory line, mass producing everything you might need for AQ. So is it, if it had come out quicker, perhaps, or it would have been back to back, do you reckon it would have been as easy, or was it just because, you know?
No, I mean, I definitely think because we've, you know, been quite diligent in the raiding and doing things over and over and over, we actually, I wouldn't say that we've been like a factory for this in any fashion, but what we have done is got ourselves pretty well geared. But there's also a level of cohesiveness that happens as well. So when the raid leaders are doing this, or you get healing assignments or whatever, you sort of start to get a bit more in tune with the people that you're raiding with. So I think in that sort of respect, it has made it quite straightforward. And like, I'm not trying to belittle any of the effort, because I know that behind the scenes there's probably loads of people panicking and like reading all of the stats and all of the things that go up and down curves and things like that, just to find out what went wrong, what can we do better next time, and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's really just a case of, excuse me, edit that one out. Right, it's really just a case of like, we have the right gear, we've seen all of the guides, so I think if you go in with the right amount of knowledge and gumption, you're gonna get it done. Do you know?
Mm-hmm.
Now, Anchorage. Sorry, go on.
Who got Harry Potter on your server?
Who got Harry Potter?
Yeah.
Do you mean Harry Daughter?
I don't know. Just, you said that there's some Hunger Games thing that one person gets, and then that's the person who gets it on the server.
Oh, right. You mean I don't know. Somebody got it. Who got to ring the gong and open the gates of Anchorage? No idea. Don't care. I think it was actually somebody called Mafaka.
Nice.
Because I don't know, it's a very strange thing, World of Warcraft, because like in a lot of like these role-playing games and things like that, people tend to gravitate to like using their own names, or using some kind of weird fantasy name, you know, your usual sort of Rygar or something like that. But with World of Warcraft, you genuinely just get like a lot of puns and jokes, like exactly what I was just sort of saying there. Harry Daughter, I thought that's what you were talking about. So warlocks have the ability to put damage over time effects, which are generally called dots. So people will strive to try and make puns on the word dot. So you'll get Harry Daughter or Dotty or anything along those sort of lines, just so that people can have that pun. And like when you get to like Taurens as well, everything's always going to be a fucking what's it called? Like joke about beef in some sort of fashion, because the Taurens look like cows. You know, it'll be like beef shield or whatever. That's a rubbish pun, but they have loads of these ones where it's just you see this. And I always think it's quite weird that you want your character to run around with a weird punny name. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. If it's something that's more throwaway, you'd be like, okay, fine. You know. But
if you're gonna invest, like days in this character, yeah, it just seems weird that people are so happy to have like some sort of ridiculous name. In fact, I walked past someone earlier today who was an undead warrior called Girl Kisser, and I don't understand. Like, why do you want your character to be called Girl Kisser? Is it to assert some kind of latent homosexuality, or indeed just sort of advertise that you do like girls regardless of gender, whatever? I don't know. Why do you do that as a character name?
But can you, like, how do you choose your name? Are they like unique you have to have a unique name per
You have to have a unique name, yeah. And you can't have names which are offensive in any way either, because otherwise you'll just get reported. In fact, one of the guildies had a gnome mage called Fecal Matter.
Yeah.
And he got reported. But I mean, that shows you how sort of how bad it can be. Because I mean, there's nothing really that bad about fecal matter. Yes, it's not a nice thing, but it's not racist. It's not offensive. It's not whatever. It's just people reporting for reporting's sake. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. So, is that done then?
It's not done, not by a long shot, because we still need to get everybody geared up with the Anchorage gear, and we don't have it all. So there's a new tier of gear to get, and it's weird. It's always referred to as tier 2.5. Because it's not as good as tier 3, and it's only marginally better than tier 2. So it feels like Anchorage is actually just this sort of in between, sort of keep you going. Here's some stuff to kill, raid just to keep you going, sort of thing. And yeah, I mean, it's a thing. The rest of the gear in it is actually underwhelming. I'm not selling this well. It's us talking about, because we can't talk about anything positively. I've had great fun, done all this with a girl, great, awesome. No, I've got to moan about something. But yeah, actually, I went through all of the gear to look for like the best things for a Holy Paladin, and run through some of the better things to actually have, keep an eye out for, maybe what I want to save my priority points for, and all that sort of stuff. And there's like 2 items. One of them is a pimp hat, which is about the only thing I want, but everybody wants, because it's a fucking pimp hat,
I remember you had that before.
Did I?
Yeah, I remember seeing screenshots of your character.
Yes. I didn't have the pimp hat. This one actually has like little zebra stripes on the side of it, sort of thing.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah. And I had a similar hat. But yeah, no, this one's really cool. And that's what I was looking for. And everything else is just sort of a very minor upgrade to what I already have. So it's kind of like, I'm going to keep doing this, but I'm only just getting more points to spend at a later point. So obviously now it's just all looking forward to the final raid of WoW Classic Naxxramas. So actually, within the guild, we're actually just talking about, right, what do we need to do next? What are the things we need to do to save up so that we can go in and just sort of trounce this? And basically just save up currency so that you can buy the tokens and tier gear so that you can get yourself geared up and know that there's nothing else afterwards that you're going to use that gear on.
So I have 2 questions.
Okay, go on.
One, you don't have to pay for any of these expansions, right? This is just part of your...
They're not expansions. This was... So throughout WoW Classic or Vanilla, the very first... Before it went into the expansion is the Burning Crusade. Before it went into it, it just basically had content that came out gradually. So it is a constantly looked after game, and it still is to this day. So that's why you pay a subscription for it rather than you pay for, the game outright, and that's it. You pay, and there is just constantly more content being brought out. Does that make sense? Yeah?
Yeah. It's an expansion. It's waves of expansion.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so there's no extra cost, so I guess that adds an element to whether or not you feel satisfied or not. I guess you are paying a subscription. So my next question is, as you're getting towards the end, and to a certain degree, you don't really know what's going to happen. But what do you reckon will happen after the next content comes out, and you do it and you beat it, and then everyone kind of gears up? Then do you reckon you'll see like a big wave of people be like, right, done. I got what I wanted out of it. That kind of mix of nostalgia, but update. I know I'm good. Or do you reckon you get people who hang on, playing WoW Classic? You've discussed previously on the podcast theories about it kind of transitioning into really making it compelling to be like, well, why don't you just slide on over into like a slightly weird version of retail where you're sort of still playing Classic, or it looks like Classic, specifically retail.
Yeah.
Well,
so
I guess you can't answer that for everybody, right? The huge player base. How many active players are there? Do you know roughly?
Well, these are not stats that Blizzard hasn't really released. It's quite weird because when you buy your subscription to World of Warcraft,
yeah,
you're actually buying it for retail. You just happen to get Classic for free, so there's no real way of knowing dead cert how many people are playing Classic versus how many people are playing retail.
What do your waters tell you?
I would say that it's roughly, I would say it's about 50-50. But some people are saying it's like maybe more 60-40 in favour of retail. And other people will actually tell you it's the other way around. But I'm sure it comes in ebbs and waves because there are people who probably drop off during each one of these mini expansions, as you call them. But as more content gets released and things change. Yeah, I'm not sure what the future holds. And I personally, I'm not sure what I'd think about looking into the void that is beyond Naxxramas. There is, of course, the possibility of the Burning Crusade Classic coming out, which will follow on time-wise from World of Warcraft, but there's been no official announcement of that at all. And on top of that, there has been a lot of trouble with the servers as they stand, and I imagine having more servers for the Burning Crusade is probably going to be more problematic. But I don't know. Ultimately, though, the only sort of positive sign that we've had from Blizzard Activision on this at all was a weird questionnaire that came out and sort of said, what was it? It was like, how do you think we should approach it? Should everybody just start afresh? Or should servers just be upgraded to TBC? Or should there be a copy of your original character so you can continue playing Classic and also TBC? So it's like, if you don't know or aren't telling us what to do, it's a little scary.
They're doing a Lost.
Yeah, but the other thing is I'm a bit anti-positive about it, because
anti-positive about it?
Anti-positive, yep.
Okay.
So I'm opposing being positive. Yeah. Looking forward to this.
You're not being negative.
But I'm not being negative. No, yeah. I'm anti-positive. It's just, well, there's a couple of factors, and I sort of mentioned this in my blog post before, about things like.
Where would you find that blog post?
You would find it on www.thatguys.co.uk, and it's under my conspiratorial ramblings. Shadowlands is Classic Plus. So basically, retail has an update that's coming at the end of October, and it's called Shadowlands. It is the latest expansion in retail, and the thing with retail is their moneymaker. So not only do you pay for your subscription in retail, but there's just so many microtransactions, there's little pets, there's aesthetics, there's mounts, all sorts of things you can buy in the Blizzard store, which is making them money. Whereas Classic doesn't have anything like that. So my thinking is, and this is what makes me sort of doubt it is even going to happen, is why would they continue to go down the Classic route if it's not going to make them money? Yeah, there might be more people who subscribe, but surely they want people to be on retail, which is their cash cow. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd have to, I guess, look at the balance of how much, because you're not, if you're getting both for subscribing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be how big are those whales, and a numbers game of how many whales have we attracted to the Classic that we can tempt into. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure.
But that's the thing with Classic. There are no whales because
it's potential whales, right? How can we
exactly
hook people with Classic, and then if they ever get to a point where they're twiddling their thumbs, lure them over to.
Well, I mean, I think that's what they hope to do with Shadowlands, and that's maybe what will be the deciding factor for TVC. But ultimately, I don't think like just bringing out TBC alone, or indeed just like having the Classic community, most of them are quite negative towards retail. It's like nobody cares about retail. Retail is a weird mobile game now, as opposed to what Classic was. So it kind of is weird to think where that's going to sort of eventually end up. Because I don't know. I had a weird theory that perhaps at the end of Classic you would just be allowed to go into Shadowlands. Because Shadowlands now has the functionality to play through all of the old expansions. So that instead of having to level a character through the usual routes of going through each one of the expansions, you can now just level your character from 1 to 50 from scratch in one of the expansions, which basically allows you to revisit all of the old content and all that sort of stuff. I'm not sure how appealing that is, but I just don't understand if they're going to implement that already. Why would they bring out the Classic version, which kind of just is almost like saying, right, well, if you don't want to play this, like, why would you lure people away from your cash cow?
Yeah. Is there much to end game in WoW? So if you're not going for gear and consuming story in inverted commas, can you just keep yourself busy just being in WoW, or is it just right? Okay, I'll start another character and go up through I'll start another character and go up through.
Well, in Classic, no, there isn't that much. There is reputation grinds, is more gear to collect, and quite honestly, that should keep you focused, or not focused, keep you with enough to do. But at the same time, doing that, there's no like extra quests, there's no extra, except when there's like a new new wave, mini wave expansions, you call it. But like at end game, you're at level 60, your goal is to get the best gear you can, and that can be through lots of different methods. But ultimately, it means being part of a community where you can contribute and share out the gear in that community. So no matter what, you're going to be, in order to get the best gear, you're going to be raiding, you're going to be doing dungeons in order to do that. There you can do PvP, The PvP ranking is brutal. It involves you doing long hours. Like, there's literally people who were doing it for weeks on end, just so that they can get to a certain bracket, so that they can get up. And I was just like, that's not worth it. It's not worth it at all. Also, if you're playing Alliance, you're gonna get trounced by the Horde because of the number skew. But yeah, it's at endgame. I think your goal is to do that, and it does change in later expansions. There becomes like you get dailies, which gives you gold, which gives you consumables, which gives you certain things. So you've got more of a easier access and less of a grind to get to. It breaks up the grind to get to doing the raiding and things like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you do get that sort of. So at endgame, yeah, the main goal is just to sort of get the best gear you can. But in order to get the best gear you can, you gotta just concentrate on getting raiding and dungeons done so that you have the best bit. I already have some of the best bits possible in the game. Remember, I was telling you about the concept of BIS.
Yeah.
Best in slot. Like my gloves are the best gloves that you can get in the game. Alright, great, cool, fantastic. But there's still other bits that need to improve, and you need to get enchants, and there's other things that just haven't come out yet because Naxxramas isn't out yet. But there's like other examples of that. But ultimately, what you're trying to do is just get your character as well geared as possible. For what reason, I'm not sure. Because once you reach Naxxramas and once you've defeated that end boss guy, Kel'Thuzad, there is nothing more. There is no more content until the Burning Crusade, where your gear is very, very quickly replaced by common items from quests in the very first zone. So it's an odd one. It's probably best not to think about too much. Otherwise, you might just think you've wasted all your time on this game or something.
Okay, when is Nicholas out?
Naxxramas. Naxxramas is not yet announced, but okay. My guess is around the same time, sort of Halloweenish. Because I don't think we can do another 2 months of Anchorage with shit loot, or I say shit loot, stuff that I'm not interested in. Other people are interested in it. That's why we continue doing those runs. There are people who do get a benefit from it, and certainly min-maxers who are like, oh my god, this has got 2 more stat points than the other one, which, fair enough, okay, great, but I don't care.
So holiday 2020, we're saying.
Yeah, definitely holiday 2020. In my opinion, who knows? I could be completely wrong. And we just have to do Anchorage past Christmas. I doubt it though. There would be a massive drop off in Classic if that was the case. But yeah. Anyway, I'm going to stop waffling on about WoW. What else have you been playing?
I got a short one. So I think we mentioned it on a previous podcast. But I had a go at Pokemon Cafe Mix.
Oh, the mobile match 3 thing.
Yes, it's free to play.
Yeah.
With your usual suite of 3 levels of currencies.
Yeah.
At a time. One is rare, one you can buy, and the game itself is a weird puzzle game, and it might be based on a successful original game that I've never played. But instead of it being something like Tetris or Match 3, where your player is kind of fixed, it generally just requires you to just kind of rub your finger all over the screen to make combos of Pokemon heads, and then the main thrust of the game is you're running a cafe that is staffed by Pokemon. You're not a Pokemon though; you're a human, so I don't know.
Okay.
These Pokemon who come along to your cafe, I don't know how they pay. I don't know where their trainers are. Anyway, a cast of Pokemon come to your cafe and they'll request different dishes. And then with Pokemon that you've recruited, you kind of make those dishes. And each dish has several elements, and each of those elements require different things. So, for example, there's I think there's a nut, and the only way you can get rid of the nuts is by using a special ability that only drops when you keep filling a bar by linking up a certain number of Pokemon, or these things called megaphones, which you find. Some items are covered in honey, and that means you have to make a combo next to them to get rid of the honey, and then do whatever the need's doing to them, depending on what kind of ingredient they are. So I had a good go at it. It's definitely one that I'm going to stop playing, I think.
Yeah, good boy. Fucking, it's one of these things you think, oh, I could invest a lot of my life into.
Yeah, and I think perhaps were it not Pokemon themed, and have they not been, well, if it wasn't Pokemon themed, we would play it in the first place, but have they not been fairly brutal at just killing off stuff after a certain period of time? Not all of them. Some of them still continue, but a lot of them, they'll be, and this is exactly the case with Cafe Mix at the moment. There are time limited special Pokemon that turn up to your cafe, and if you build up enough stars, you can recruit them. And if you miss them, they might be rerun in the future. So there's plenty of, and there's also like a daily login prize, and
yeah, we've seen it all in every single other mobile game.
So there's lots to kind of keep you going, and you can. I think they've got the balance quite good. So, which they always seem to with these free-to-play Pokemon games. You don't feel like you are hitting a brick wall that you need to pay through all the time. But
it's because they've got like game psychologists in to find the friction points to make it seem like okay. This is the point where your regular punter might be more susceptible to buying things, so flash up the.
For me, because of the nature of the game, because it's not, you don't ever really feel 100% in control. Everything's very loosey juicy. So it's essentially, you imagine it on your phone turned sideways. You're just trying to link all these Pokemon, and in that you've got apples bubbling around and marshmallow things bubbling around and things covered in honey and ice blocks, and it's just kind of a mess. You can kind of up your chances. It's just all horrible free to play. You can up your chances. There are certain items that you can kind of get, but you don't get them very often, and they'll help you clear a line and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
So, from a kind of quality presentation side of things, it's gorgeous. So it's this I think it's like this sort of like a painterly but almost collage-like sensibility to it, the visuals. So everything looks super cute, and in the way that a lot of Japanese games do. The food, when you prepare the food dishes, they are glowing and oozing and burgeoning with ingredients. So really nicely presented. But yeah, I'm probably just going to delete it the next time I need some space. So, which is always nice. I always find it nice to have like a priority candidate for I need some gigs. Oh yeah, that's going.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh man, but yeah. Like, I mean, we talked about this before. Just with mobile games, it's so easy to see the game loop, and how you like it, and you're like, oh, yeah, okay. And then you play it, and then you almost think, do you know what? I don't mind doing this every day. I'm quite excited about the prospect of doing this, and then you just realise that you've been suckered in, and you're now just going to get worn down day in, day out, by that little advert flashing saying, "Oh, by the way, do you want to buy a thing? You should buy a thing." And then you start thinking to yourself, you know what? I've spent a few hours in this game. I think it's probably worth, spending.
Yeah. Like, I'm not going to spend 30
justify
quid on
this.
it,
Yeah,
exactly. A fiver is, or a couple of quid.
Yeah.
X many hours.
Yeah, and then no, that's not free to play anymore. But yeah, it's a tough one, and I just haven't loaded up Pokemon Cafe because I can guarantee that it's probably a nice fun game, but it's going to have the foundation of every other fucking mobile game out there, which just says, you have to pay for X in order to continue on, and you'll have a little bit less dopamine until you do pay for it.
Yeah,
or whatever,
So
fuck it, man.
Mobile and Switch, I think. So it was a nice palate cleanser. And actually, the other game that we might get around to talking about, it's also been a bit of a palate cleanser. I think I kind of burned out on Pokemon Sword and Shield, and I'll probably be happy until just before the next expansion comes out.
The next expansion, the Dragon expansion.
Yes, the fossil expansion. So yeah, it was kind of like, I don't want to do that anymore, and this is what I'd spend all my time on if I had any gaming time. And so that was thematically appropriately enough a nice palate cleanser. But now I'm perhaps ready to ditch it. What are you playing?
Well, do you remember there was a period of What Are You Playing where I was just basically playing everything that was free on the Epic Store?
Right, is this when you were in the pockets of Big Epic?
Well, to change it all up, I this weekend on Steam, not Epic Store, they had a free weekend of 2 Point Hospital, and I thought, I've not played that. And I was talking to you just recently in our non-violent games podcast about games like this, and I thought, you know what, they're fun, I'm going to give this a little go. So I let it download the 7 gigs worth of the game that I get to play for 2 days. So I downloaded it and I started up and I did the tutorial. It looks a lot like Theme Hospital in every way, and which is quite nice. And it's fully 3D, great controls, spinning it around. You get to make rooms, you get to do things. I made a reception desk, then I made a GP office, then I made a pharmaceutical. That's like the basic tutorial. Like, these are the things you need to do in order to cure a person. Like, right, fair, fine. After doing so, I was just kind of like, right, okay, I need to switch the receptionist out for a better receptionist. Okay, I accidentally bought 2. And then I was like, right, okay, do this. And then I thought, I know the rest of this game. No offense to the game, I'm sure it's beautifully presented, I'm sure it's got a little bit of humor and it's a nice journey and all that sort of stuff.
Well, I was going to ask, does it have the ridiculous charm of Theme Hospital with the nonsense ailments that people come in with? Yeah,
I mean, it already had like some really fun sort of call outs as well. So it has like a tannoy service. So there was a woman just sort of over the tannoy saying, and the GP office is now open. No pharmaceuticals though, so don't know what you're gonna do. Or in fact, receptionist to the receptionist desk because we have too many receptionists. And you're like, oh, well done. You're making like little jokes about my fuck ups. Great. So that was good. I enjoyed that. But is it enough for me to go through another building sim? Apparently not. Because after playing through that a little bit, I just genuinely thought to myself, right, okay, there's going to be a point where I have to get like MRI machines or silly, fun, I don't know. There was something about people getting turtle heads, which is a really horrible thing in the UK. But it's actually like literally people were just getting heads stuck inside their bodies. Wow. Yeah, so you would get a machine that would sort of pull out your head. So that again, silly ailments and all that sort of stuff. Exactly the same sort of stuff that you saw in Theme Hospital. So yeah, it is all there, and it is beautifully presented, and it's got great ratings. But I just found myself thinking, I've played this before, even though I hadn't played it. So I don't know if I needed to actually scratch the surface more than the 30 minutes I gave it. But I just kind of thought, it's the same, and it just felt like this Sims or Theme Hospital, of course, but it just felt like these things, and they're like, right, okay, you're gonna do this, you're gonna get the upgrade, you're gonna get that. There will be a point where something fucks up and you get a bit stressed out and you have to build a room really quickly or demolish a thing. Yeah.
To me, that's something that I would find less attractive today. Is, you know, as you said, you kind of feel like you know how it's going to go. So you do the tutorial. First 3 or 4 missions are going to be dead simple, right? You build a nice little hospital. Yeah, it introduces some new elements, whatever, cleaners, things like that, and it'll be nice. You think, yeah, I smashed that. But then it is just a stressful increase until you are, you know, watching whatever it is, income come in or meters go up so that you can demolish this wall, so you need to build this building, and then...
Until you can afford the next doctor or the next tier of doctor or next tier of MRI machine, yeah.
I used to love in Theme Hospitals is the emergencies, right? So occasionally just everyone in the hospital would chunder. Do you remember that? You see people throwing up everywhere, and your cleaners can't get like to it quick enough because there's just so much chundus, and you kind of hire an emergency cleaner, but then new patients are coming in and they're seeing the sick everywhere, and then they're throwing up, and it just kind of throws everything out. And I don't know, I don't have that, and maybe it's the times we're living in as well. Why would I want to be stressed out any more than I currently am, albeit virtually? Yeah, so I don't know. I just don't find. Perhaps if I could keep, you know, just plateau on that early level, you know, so it's kind of easy. It's kind of nice. You're not really going to be pushed. It's not too complex. You know, you get a nice satisfaction from dealing with hospitals, but it's not emergencies or X layers of complexity and stress.
Yeah, spot on. It's exactly why. I must really stress it is a very, very pretty game, and you can zoom right in and you can see the people like getting their, you know, their doctor consultation, and I'm sure whatever funny animations for the later, you know, medical machines are in there will have, you know, that's great, fantastic. I wasn't prepared to invest in a sim like that, and I was like, oh.
I got nothing to prove. You got nothing to prove. You've been there. You've done that.
Yeah, it's like, it's horrible because you know there will be, exactly as you said, there will be a stressful point where you're just like, oh my god, I need to get money fast so that I can afford this next thing, so this person doesn't die, because if I have another death then my hospital's going to close, and it's basically you're just going to be spinning a lot of plates.
Yeah.
Plate spinning simulator. I think that's essentially what it is.
It's the satisfaction of you know, on the other side, when you finish a level or however it's set up, is that enough? Does that outweigh the stress of getting there?
Like, I mean, like
as a younger man, I would have argued yes. Absolutely not. No.
So yeah, that's the half a game I kind of played for half an hour. Okay. What else have you been going at?
So the last thing, and again linking, last thing I've been playing recently, linking to what I was saying earlier about palette cleansing, is I purchased. I don't know. I might have mentioned it on the podcast. I bought Starlink Battle of Atlas for the PlayStation 4. The starter set. So,
Okay, is that not the one that you had on the Switch as well?
Yeah. So I originally got it on the Switch. It was one of those. It's a toys to life type game based around spaceships. So the core components are your pilot, the chassis of the spaceship, the wings, and the 2 weapons. So you kind of build them together. It's not quite as complex as Lego. Each thing has a clicky bit, but it's very nice, very well produced. Not had anything break. And within weeks here in the UK, all of that shit was heavily, heavily discounted. Like up to like 10% of the original price for whatever reason. I mean, I guess I don't know for whatever reason. The storage space it was taking up. I guess brick and mortar shops just didn't want to dedicate a whole space to this game. So I ended up picking up quite a few of the ships and different weapons. And you can also completely play it without toy stuff as well. And I think you can just buy the digital things, or if you've got the physical ones, you can connect them all and then just switch to playing offline version. But the game side of things is looks very different because you're flying around in a ship on different planets, and then you're leaving those planets, so you kind of work within a very, very small solar system, but it's big enough to be a pain in the ass to get from one side to the other. All of that dressing masks the fact that it's essentially a Ubisoft game in the kind of Assassin's Creed vein. So you're going from place to place, collect the thing, hit the viewpoint.
Yeah. I know. Yeah.
And so, as I mentioned, it's a palette cleanser in that it's not really challenging. I have done it all before as well. It's not even like the story beats, which there aren't particularly many in this game are there. The PlayStation version didn't have the Star Fox characters either, which the Switch version did. But it's just a nice, game to not stress about. The movement of your ships is just handles really. It just feels satisfying bombing about.
Well, that's good. That's a good, especially with a lot of these flying sims and things like that. Well, not the sims, but you want to feel like that's really good.
Yeah,
as long as
yeah, and obviously you spend a lot of your time bombing around, right? Everything is going from A to B. Either you're looking to scan this species, or you're going to attack these guys, or you're finding this, or you're doing quests for this outpost, or you're picking up some resources.
Do you know what you've just reminded me of? And this is just a killer point from our previous podcast. We were going to talk about Frontier Elite, and we never did.
Yeah, and then we never did. So I'll wrap.
Sorry,
up.
go on.
No, I'll wrap up Starlink quickly. So, again, really happy with the number of space flight games we've got with this generation. Starlink definitely being one of them. Then there's I can't remember. What's it called? Ever something. I'm going to say EverQuest. It's not EverQuest. Everspace. That makes sense.
Sure, Everspace.
Like a rogue that you're flying about. A couple of other ones. And just it's the spaceship handling, which was so easy, but also fast, and you can pull off wonderful jumps, and it's seamless to go from kind of ground mode to then you're up in the atmosphere, and because there's not, unlike the game we just discussed, there's not really much stress to it, right? In that kind of Ubisoft way. You know what you got to do. you can spend your time doing it. You're ticking things off. Not even a virtual tick list. You go into the menu and you look at the tick list. So yeah, it's very much. I'd say that and Pokemon Cafe Mix are very much palate cleansers. I'm just having a nice time doing this, and I'm kind of okay. Not necessarily having big goals to do, not necessarily being pushed or challenged. Just hanging out in this nice virtual world.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and I think part of why I sort of even launched 2 Point Hospital was because so much of my time is actually on World of Warcraft at the moment as well. It's like I do need some palate cleanser games in my life. I mean,
especially when you don't have to keep so much, as you were saying, you've looked up all the items, everything, you've got lists of this, and we're working towards this, and we have to do it, and we're doing this. It becomes quite mentally, there's lots of busy work, I think.
Yeah, I genuinely made a spreadsheet for all of the other paladins so that we could track who has what buffs. It's like, that's work. That's not gaming. But yeah, it's weird. It's like that borderline. It's like what is fun. It's play within learning within a comfortable environment and that sort of thing. So it's just it's weird how that sort of things goes. But yeah, palate cleansers. I think next time we have a podcast, let's have more palate cleansers in our midst.
Palate cleansing games.
Yeah.
Lastly, because you brought it up, Frontier Elite.
I think now let's leave that for our next poddy.
Okay.
The people
spaceship game.
Spaceship game poddy. There we go. You hear it here first, guys. Coming soon.
.co.uk.
Yeah, spaceship buddy. Okay. I think, are we done? We're good. Do you have anything more you want to say?
No, that was a nice.
Okay, cool.
Nice.
Say goodbye, Farley.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.